have a few people that I want to recognize before we begin. To start, we have our township manager, Tim Stafford, over here. We have Mayor Sean Spiller, Councilman Iacobellis. We have some departments here. I have the Captain DeMeo from the Sheriff's Department out here. And Bloomfield PD, we have Lieutenant Zapata. And with me today, I have Deputy Chief Young. We're going to be honoring the Narcotics Bureau, and I also have members of our Community Service Unit. But I do want to just back up a little bit. A few weeks ago, I had a conversation with Robin Lavorato. And for those of you who don't know Robin, she's the Executive Director of the Essex Health and Wellness Recovery at St. Michael's Medical Center. And at that time, she had let me know that she wanted to recognize Sgt Cunningham, Detective Mickens, and Detective McClean for the work that they've been doing in helping people overcome drug addiction, as well as spreading awareness and understanding that there's alternatives out there aside from incarceration. And for that, I want to obviously thank all of you for the hard work that you do, for the commitment that you show, for your compassion, for understanding that there is treatment out there and that this is a true disease. And thank you for all the good work that you do in this community. And I have to say something about Robin. Robin's been a partner with us for many years. And I cannot say enough for the good work that she does. But Robin, I want to thank you for your partnership, your support, and always finding a way to connect people to a wide range of services. And I look forward to working with you more in the future. And again, I can't thank you enough for what you've done for this township. So she's going to speak a little bit about her event that she's going to have on June 16th, where the officers will be recognized. So I'm going to bring her up right now. Thank you. Take your time.
Okay. Thank you for those kind words. Welcome, everybody. Thank you to everybody who's here. There's nobody more important or less important that's standing here with us today. So I thank everyone for being here. So my name is Robin Lavorato. I am the Executive Director of the Essex Health and Wellness Recovery, and we are officed at St. Michael's Medical Center in Newark. St. Michael's was generous enough to donate that space to us. That's pretty amazing to be in one of the major hospitals here in Essex County. They really believed in our mission, just like Montclair Police Department has. So we began in June of 2018 in a shelter in Newark. I was looking for a new job. I had been a student assistance counselor for a high school up in Morris County. I worked a lot with Sheriff Gannon up there, and Sheriff Gannon talked a lot about the opioid crisis. So I was looking for a job down here in Essex County, and I saw the numbers in Essex County that we had the highest rate of overdose deaths because of opioids. We have the highest rate of homelessness. So I said, I need to get my hands in there. So I lived in Essex County. I never worked in Essex County before. I just started talking to people, and I met up with a gentleman who runs a shelter down in Newark. He said, come on down, we'll have a conversation. We had a conversation. He said, let's run a awareness night. So we ran an awareness night. Now, I've ran nights before as a SAC for a high school. You get 5 or 6 parents that came out. We got 80 people that showed up. That opioid epidemic was hitting so many people that we got 80 people on a June evening at 7 o'clock at night down in Newark in a shelter. And we talked, we cried, we laughed, we clapped, we were angry. There were so many emotions there. That led to us creating the Opioid Task Force. The Opioid Task Force then for the next year went around to almost every township in Essex County and ran an awareness night for police officers, for treatment providers, for officials, for parents, for adolescents. Everybody came to these meetings. I never saw a meeting so well attended. And it's because what we were talking about affected everybody. This disease did not just affect the poor. It didn't just affect the rich. It didn't just affect one color or one religion. It didn't affect just police officers and not, garbage men. It affected every single person. And that's why we had so many people come out. So from there, we just went into a nonprofit. We had to form a non-for-profit. When we did that, we started the Essex Health and Wellness Recovery Center. And that's when St. Michael's came to us and they said, we'd like to house you at our hospital. And so we ended up having a first year anniversary in June of 2019. And we honored Susan Gibson. She's the special agent in charge of the New Jersey Drug Enforcement Administration. Pretty much the top cop in New Jersey. And, her fight and her battle with drugs is something very close to my heart, and even more so now since my son is a DE agent as well. I take this all very seriously. There's nobody that I want to see suffer from this, because we know that if one person is struggling with that addiction, with that disease, we know that there's probably 100 other people who are struggling along with them. Mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, neighbors, coaches, teachers. So this is definitely a disease that affects everybody, and 100-fold over. So when we blossomed into the Essex Health and Wellness Recovery Center, February 7th of last year, right before COVID hit, we dedicated our center to Joanne Diglio. Her husband is here tonight. Hi, Peter. Thank you for being here. Joanne Diglio. Joanne Diglio was at our first meeting in Newark. She lost her son. They lost their son to opioids. And she came to that meeting, and she never left my side until God took her last January. She worked so hard with me on this mission and creating the center and just fulfilling our mission. So we miss Joanne very, very much, and I know she's here with us today. So we will be celebrating our third anniversary on June 16th at the Forest Hill Field Club. And my board is led by President Jim Hunt. He is a special agent in charge, retired, of the New York Drug Enforcement Administration. And he's a West Caldwell resident, he's an Essex County resident. And he and the other members, I have my treasurer here today, Miss Susan Ferrulo, who's worked very, very hard. She as well knows the struggle of addiction for her husband, who had 12 beautiful years of recovery. Unfortunately, we lost Joe to COVID last year, but he was a big piece of this too, because he talked so often about recovery to me. And he taught me a lot of things that I didn't learn in school, but that he learned in the rooms, and it was quite amazing. So I'm really proud to have Sue here. Thank you. So now that we had to choose somebody to be our third, we had to have someone to be our honoree for our third year celebration. We sat, we talked about it, and there's some great people out there. We have Captain DeMayo out here. Sheriff's Department's been really great. I called Captain DeMayo one day. A family member was looking for their son, who's been camped out at Penn Station for a real long time. He did have charges on him. We know if we got him, we could bring him in on those charges and at least have a chance of getting him off the street and get him into treatment. You know what? Thank God in heaven, the Sheriff's Department did their job, and he's in sober living now, and probably 8 months later, and he's doing really well. So thank you to that. So yeah, we have a lot of people to choose from. There's so many people that partnered with us over the last 3 years. But hands down, my president and our board chose the Montclair Police Department. Sgt Cunningham and his vice crime unit. These guys do some amazing work out there on the streets. I don't even know where to begin, but I will begin. So, Sgt Cunningham, he showed up to the meetings. He showed up to all those opioid task force meetings. We held one here in Montclair at the YMCA. He spoke. He was the lead guy there, our keynote speaker. Knows his stuff, knows his streets. He has the knowledge. You can't say enough, good stuff about him. So these are the reasons we had to really and truly make you guys the honoree of our third anniversary, because they're just dynamite. Besides coming, besides coming to the opioid task force meetings where we began this journey, He also took his time to come to Montclair High School. Montclair High School had called me, a young girl, a sophomore, called me and said that her team had to do a documentary on the opioid epidemic. So they wanted me to send them some information, some links on some different things they can look at. That's not me, so I'm like, how about if I visit the school? So they're like, okay. So I call my dear friend Joanne, who just happened to be a producer, a commercial producer in her day, said sure. So she and I went down there, called Sgt Cunningham. We had the DEA, a bunch of people who are in recovery. We went down there, and for a 3-week period, we worked very, very hard with about 12 students, and they produced a documentary called Not My Choice, and it was top notch. And once again, Sgt Cunningham was there with his knowledge, his passion, his compassion of this disease, this substance use disorder, and shared so much knowledge with them. And I'll never forget that. That was one of the greatest times of my life working with those kids, because that video went out to a lot of different schools. We played it at our first anniversary celebration, and I know that saved lives. I know that stopped somebody from picking up a pill, and I'm just super proud about that.
Many of you know people that make movies, get in touch with me, we'd like to see more. We did a movie about a girl who was in the gutter for 20 years. She became a chef. She got a scholarship from Ammon Foundation, and she graduated the night Joanne made a movie on her little phone. So that my wife was very creative. I'm not, but I have a big mouth, and that sometimes helps me.
Thanks, Pete.
And I'm glad that Charlie, you're number 3 being honored. You're not Hertz, you're not Avis, you're Resurrect. No applause, thank you.
So we started doing community awareness breakfast every the last Wednesday of every month at St. Michael's. We have between 80 and 150 people come together. Again, law enforcement, treatment providers, people suffering, people who had lost loved ones. And the Montclair Police Department was our keynote speaker, and they were all down there one morning. And it was pretty amazing, right? Just to have them there was cool. But don't you think just how God would have it that this person who was going to speak that day, who was in recovery, because we always did like a law enforcement update, then we would do someone who lost a loved one, and then we do someone who thank God was able to recover from this horrible disease. So we had Jason, who actually was in recovery for 8-10 years. Well, don't you know, he said the last time I used was the day that the Montclair Police Department locked me up. And the Montclair Police Department was there that day speaking. So it was a big coincidence. And he actually gave, was it Detective Arnaldi?
Correct.
Yeah, a big hug and said, thank you for arresting me. That was the day you took me off the street and began this beautiful journey of recovery. So that's pretty awesome.
He now owns a very successful restaurant in Passaic County.
Yes, he does. He's doing amazing. And he shares his experience, his knowledge, his hope with so many people in an effort to help somebody else get into recovery. So that's pretty awesome. Our opioid awareness walk. So we have an opioid awareness walk every year. Montclair has been amazing. We have the chief comes out, the deputy chief, all the guys on their bikes. We have the town officials come out. People come all out for that day. So Sgt Cunningham, he, for all 3 years, has started at the starting point, which is in Newark, New Jersey, 8 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it's pretty chilly. And he walks all 13 miles down to Caldwell. That's dedication. A lot of people are there for the photo op. He's not there for the photo op. He does the right thing. This is a guy with morals, values, character. This is the guy and his team that you want to honor. And that's why we're here tonight. So one of the most beautiful things that Sgt Cunningham and his team did was reach out to us. We have police departments that reach out to us. We have hospitals, emergency rooms that reach out to us, family members. We have all sorts of people reach out to us. Sgt Cunningham reached out to me one day, a partner and I, we were on our way to a meeting somewhere, and he said, listen, I got this woman. He said, she's a good woman. He goes, she's a community member, she's a great woman. She said, she's struggling bad, she's been up and down this road, and I know she doesn't want this road. Can you guys come down? We look at each other like, let's do it. So we just turn our car around, we shoot down there, and she wasn't there. So you guys, was it you two, and Arnaldi, right? Yes. You guys went out there and picked her up and brought her back to the house, and she's like, oh God, what did I do? I said, this is your lucky day. So we went up into her kitchen, and we sat there and talked, and you know what, I don't even really remember what we said, but I was hugging her up, and we were on our way to look for a detox. And we could not get her into that. We went to 3 different detoxes because of insurance, which is one of my pet peeves. You know, there were problems, but we got her into one where the next morning she was going to be there at 8 a.m. Now I had to drop her off at her house, and I had to go home, and I had to hit my knees hard and pray that she was going to be there tomorrow morning at 7:30 when I had to pick her up. And you know what? She was there. And 2 years later, Kathy is sitting with us right now to honor Sgt Cunningham and his team. And, you know, not only is she in recovery, she's helping other people in recovery. She's working the steps. She's doing what you're supposed to do. Recovery is possible. Recovery is beautiful. And, you know, God saved a life. And if it wasn't for these gentlemen here, we don't know, right, Kath? We don't know. But that was just, it's where we need to be. I've got one of my dynamite recovery guides right here, Chris McAllister, okay? Here's a young man that I call him and I say to him, Chris, we have a situation. Right away, he turns and he'll help them, no matter what he has to do. He's been in those shoes before. He gets it. And you know what? Our officers know that they can reach out to people like us recovery specialists to get that help there. And we need our police officers. We can't do this without our police officers. So thank you all so very much for what you do. This past winter, there was a snowstorm. There was a bad snowstorm. And we had been working, of course, Sgt Cunningham once again called me up, told me about a young man who was struggling, great community member here in Montclair, and he was struggling, and he, you know, said, we gotta get him some help. Chris has been calling him, working with him. Terry was calling, working him with him, and you know, he wanted this recovery. He heard about this recovery. He knew he could do it. Well, one day he was ready. And Sgt Cunningham said, you know, can we do something? Sure. I made a few phone calls, had a detox all ready for him to go to, and sure enough, we had a snowstorm. We had snow up to our knees. And I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pick him up in that little Honda of mine and get him down there, but I sure will try. Sgt Cunningham said, you're not doing that. He goes, meet me at the police station. He goes, we're going to take the truck and we're going to take him down there. We picked Abdul up. Abdul, thank God you're here with us tonight. Thank you so much. And Abdul, he's doing amazing. Polite, nice, great guy who is just so appreciative of Sgt Cunningham and his team for all the work that he's done to give him the life and respect that he deserves, like every human being does. So thanks for being out with us tonight. And on June 16th, at our big celebration where we'll be giving out the awards, Abdul and Kathy will be speaking, and it's something that you don't want to miss. So it's going to be at the Forest Hill Field Club in Bloomfield. I just want to say thank you also. So I'm also the Director of Adolescent Services for New Pathway Counseling in Pine Brook, out in Morris County. On their day off, Lieutenant Williams and Sgt Cunningham came to where I work and sat with the adolescents and talked with them. And it wasn't like one of your normal little, you know, assemblies. It was like a man-to-man talk. It was a heart-to-heart talk. It was beautiful, and that was on their day off, you know. And again, there was no cameras around. This wasn't a photo op. This was because they have the knowledge, they have the passion, they have the compassion to help others. And I thank you very much, Lieutenant and Sergeant, of course, for what you've done. Listen, all this could not be done if it wasn't for Chief Conforti and Chief Young, right? You know, if they didn't have the passion, compassion, knowledge, understanding to allow their men, you know, pretty busy, right? The streets are always busy. There's always something they can find them to do. But to allow them to come to every single thing that we have you know, to join us on this mission. If it wasn't for you guys, this wouldn't be possible. You know, they could have some stuffed shirts out there that just wouldn't want anything to do with this. You know, it might be bad for the town, it might not look good. You know what I mean? It's not our business, but you guys understand that. And listen, that made all the difference in the world. You know, because there are police departments that we reach out to that they do turn our back because they're afraid of certain things. But you guys are strong, you're leaders, and I thank you so much for that, because you know what? I'm not kidding. You guys have saved lives. You saved a lot of lives. The people that reached out to us after the walk this year, I think we had like 45 people that reached out to us. That's just from awareness. That's walking in purple shirts with purple balloons because of your leadership and allowing people like these guys to go out and do the work that needs to be done. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Listen, I've got so much to say, but I'm going to leave a little bit for June 16th. I just want to, again, just thank everybody. You know what, the township for, you know, having us here today, and again, your leadership to allow your department to do their work and to know how important law enforcement is. And of course, for Sgt Cunningham and the entire team, you guys are amazing. Thank you very much. I'm going to be very, very proud to give you an award on June 16th for your hard work. And don't ever give up. I know sometimes it gets grueling. Sometimes you don't see the fruit of your efforts right away, so that makes it difficult. But believe me, you're saving lives. And like I said when I started, when we save one life, we're saving a lot of lives, because I know the heartache of addiction. We have a young boy who's suffering from addiction. We have a young girl. Then we have a mother and father. We have sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles, cousins. We have, you know, the neighbors. We have the coaches that coach them in sports. We have their teachers. We have thousands of people that are hurting just as well. So each and every one of you out there in the blue, I applaud every one of you. Every one of you could be up here receiving this award. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Folks, if you don't mind, please give Robin and Sue Ferrulo a big round of applause. I'm not sure if it was an all-inclusive trip to Aruba or a lobster dinner that got everybody here tonight, but neither of them are going to be fulfilled. Thank you for being here. For those of you that don't know Robin, she is the executive director of the Essex Health and Wellness Recovery Center, and they offer peer support and guidance for those that are suffering from addiction. And I met Robin about 4 years ago. If you don't know her, keep your eye on her. She keeps going and growing, and she could be all of our bosses one day, so keep your eye on her. Under Robin's leadership, we've become stewards for those that have lost the fight of addiction, and we've become champions for those that are still fighting, along with their families. All this work that I speak of and that was spoken about earlier couldn't be done without the help of the Vice Crimes Unit detectives who are standing behind me. I'd ask them to step up a little bit. Mike Mickens and Macheo McClean. Homegrown guys, went to Montclair High, great detectives, and if you couldn't tell, great bodyguards for me as well. Here tonight as well, previously introduced was both Chief Conforti, Chief Young, and I'd also like to include Lieutenant Williams. Lieutenant Williams introduced me to Robin, as well as the Essex Health and Wellness Recovery, with the meeting that took place at the YMCA a few years back. Chief Williams does a lot with those with mental illness and with the community policing unit, which he commands. So I really want to thank him for the introduction. Just to give you a little background, the chief has a social worker background. That's Chief Conforti. Deputy Chief Young runs the Cobras program, which is a junior football program, which is not only legendary in Essex County, but in the state of New Jersey as well. And Lieutenant Williams, he runs the PAL basketball program, boys and girls from the middle school. It's about 7 teams. So these guys, I mention this because they're people. You know, they're about helping people out. They get it. That background is important because they allow us to wear the hat of the guardian and allows us to march in lockstep with those families and those that are suffering from addiction. Chief Conforti continues to develop policies that advance the common good, and that's important in this day and age. And it's definitely worth mentioning. Not only does he continue that process, but he supports it through and through. And if I hear of something that's going on, I'll bring it to his attention, Deputy Chief Young's attention. Charlie, if you think it's a good idea, please follow it up, and I will. You know, earlier, a couple people were mentioned that are here tonight, and very special people. And they have a story to tell. I'm not going to tell it, but I will give you a little thumbnail, and some of it was previously mentioned as well. So Kathy and Apanob, they're both here. Apanob's also known as Abdul. And great people. Kathy came under our radar after several little blips on the radar. Eventually we grabbed her up like you know, you're being told earlier, and she wanted to help. We provided her to help, and it'll be 2 years in July that she's sober. Abdul, we met him in the fall, and great gentleman, wants to work hard, wanted to get better. The guys that I work with recognized it. They made the outreach. They're the ones that do all this work. They make the initial contact, and it's the phone call to the victim or the family of the non-fatal overdose that makes that segue into this. You know, on the unfortunate incidents where it's a fatal overdose, it's the phone call to the victim's family. But they make the initial contact, they get the ball rolling, and from there we follow it up and hopefully see it through to a successful conclusion like the two people here today. But both of these folks, they're still sober. One's almost 2 years out and the other one's approximately 4 months out, I would say. So in closing, you know, especially to Kathy, to Abdul, and to people who may have family members, yeah, I would just say for you folks, you know, it's the more important thing is the direction you're heading and not the speed you're heading at it in. And I would just say that you stay the course on that. I'd also like to acknowledge that my family's here tonight, my wife, son, and my parents, and they're obviously a big supporter. I'm in my 27th year of law enforcement, so they've been big supporters all along. And my wife understands what void is left there when you lose a family member to the opioid addiction. She lost her youngest brother several years ago, so we get it and we understand it. And to my brothers and sisters in law enforcement, and to you know, Robin and your crew at the Essex Health and Wellness Recovery Center, I would just say that, you know, your service, our service to the people at the at-risk community has been quantifiably successful. So just stay the course as well. Thank you very much and be safe.